Hi, welcome back to my channel, to my videos. If you are not new here and you've been subscribed, thank you for not unsubscribing because I haven't posted in nearly a year. And this is why I haven't posted. I'm going to explain it to you all, and if you're new here and you just came across this video, thanks for clicking on the video, and hopefully you all can take away a thing or two from what I am about to tell you. So I don't know what I'm going to title this video. I'm hoping something clickbait-y, but basically I'm going to tell you the story of my manic episode that I had last year around this time. I need to begin with some context, okay? I spent my whole life wondering what was wrong with me, and I didn't have the ability to get a diagnosis because I didn't have insurance. And at some point during college, I kind of just stopped wanting to know what it was. And for context as well, more context, I am a psychology student. I got my Bachelor of Science in Psychology, and I'm in a clinical psychology program. So I am a psychology student, and as many psychology students, we want to know what exactly is wrong with us, what is wrong with those around us. There's gonna be 4 parts. In the beginning, my hypomanic/manic episode, the hospital, and the aftermath. So, in the beginning, I started therapy as soon as I got to graduate school, mostly because of grief from my ex-boyfriend completing suicide 9 months prior. The therapist, I'm sorry, did nothing for my grief, but through that process, a lot of my problematic behavior came to light. I had a hard time adjusting to graduate school after being out of school for about 9 months, which I know isn't a long time. And right now I'm out of school and I'm gonna go back in August. So it'll be a year since I was in school when I go back, which which I know is still not a lot of time, but to me it is. And I don't know how I'm gonna do it. But when I started graduate school, I became obsessed with this one guy in my cohort because I had a crush on him. Like, as soon as I saw him, I had a crush on him. I talked about it when I vlogged back then. It was so bad that I took him into health day and I went to an emergency therapy session because the school that I go to has a counseling center, and the emergency therapist basically was like, you need a hobby. So that day I went to the library and picked up a 600-page book, Helmet. I picked up Helmet and I read it in a week. It did help. It helped a lot. The therapist was onto something. I told the emergency therapist that I wanted to seek out medication to help me with my mood. So she made an appointment with a psychiatrist through the school, because everything is through the school. And I talked to a psychiatrist like, I don't know, a couple weeks later. When I met with the psychiatrist, we had the initial routine meeting, like, why are you here? What's going on? Etc., etc. And she diagnosed me with being normal. And I remember celebrating that day. I went to the friends that I was making through my cohort and I was like, guys, I just came back from my psychiatrist appointment and she diagnosed me with nothing. Yeah, that would turn out to be untrue, because later I would be diagnosed with OCD and general anxiety disorder. And that was not the diagnosis that put me in the hospital, by the way. I was prescribed an SSRI and an anti-anxiety medication to help with sleep and other anxious events, because at the beginning of grad school, I could not sleep. I had a very, very hard time sleeping, and then the psychiatrist was like, have you tried sleep hygiene? What a concept. No, and I hadn't. That's why she's a psychiatrist and I'm not. I had a period in my first semester of grad school where I would describe myself as a social vampire. I feasted off of positive social interactions, and when I could not talk to somebody, I literally could not go to sleep because I just wanted to talk to somebody so much, and I would talk a lot. And I cannot say with certainty that that was a symptom of a hypomanic episode, but it most likely was. Along with my obsession with like the guy in my cohort not being able to sleep, talking too much. What would that say? What does that say? I was doing fine on the medication that I had and my mood was being regulated until I think I got COVID like a week before I was supposed to go back to school, and I forgot to take my medication. But the psychiatrist that I saw at the hospital and my own psychiatrist have since ruled out that the manic episode was not caused by the lack of medication dosage. So, because that's what I thought it was, like, oh, I haven't taken my medication, that's what caused the manic episode, but that's not what it was. I still, it's been a year and I still don't really know what happened. By the way, I have evidence of nearly all of this because I was posting to my Instagram story quite a lot, and I made a bunch of posts. So there's documentation of my hypomanic episode on Instagram, and I don't know how nobody was like, hey girl. Like nobody said anything. Absolutely not a single, except for my boyfriend. So now we're going into the hypomanic/manic episode. I say hypomanic because I was hypomanic for like 4-5 days, and then my manic episode happened, and then I was hypomanic afterwards. So January 13th was my 23rd birthday, and that was one of the best birthdays I've had in a really long time. I had my friends over that I made from my first semester of grad school. My mom was over. I got to see my boyfriend. It was really good. It was really a lot of fun, and I enjoyed that birthday a lot. January 16th, 3 days after my birthday, I could not go to sleep. And I would not sleep 4 days, okay? Like nearly a week, I did not go to sleep. Remember how I wanted to find out what was wrong with me? Well, I started to make up a reason as to why I couldn't remember the first 5 years of my life, because I can't, which led me to fully believe that I was sexually assaulted by a family member when I was very, very young, and I couldn't remember it, and it was horrifying. I was like breaking down sobbing because I couldn't remember what happened, and then because it didn't seem so out of the blue, people kind of also accepted the fact that that happened to me, but it never did. I just made it up. I also started talking about this thing called big sleep because, as I mentioned before, I could not sleep the full 8 hours. I remember I vlogged during that time, and I talked about it, but I lost the footage because I threw my phone away. So the next day, January 17th, I was still awake. I was like up at 3 a.m. posting about how I had really long blonde hair in college, and I was just like, oh my god, my hair was so long and blonde, to my close friend story on my main Instagram, because I have 3 different accounts on Instagram. Sue me, I don't know. I kept saying that I'm self-actualized, and I thought that meant that I was just super smart and mature for my age, but nope, I was just hypomanic. I was going to apply for PhD programs last year, and I was really excited because my friends that I made would also be applying, and I had an established friend group, I had a boyfriend, and spoiler alert, my friends would then leave me. January 18th, I was still not sleeping. I would not sleep for several more days. I watched Joker 2 with my boyfriend for self-care because I love the Joker movies, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movies. I had a coffee crawl planned out with my friend, which is where you go to a bunch of different coffee shops in the same day. And she was worried about me driving us because I had not slept. And I was like, no, girl, I'm fine. She's like, no, I just don't want us to get in a car crash. We did not get in a car crash. It was a lot of fun. It was too much fun. It was too much fun. We were laughing and giggling, and I had not slept at all. Like, the coffee crawl started pretty early, and I had not slept, and I was totally fine. I was driving. It was great. And we get back home to her place, and we're like, why am I like this? Why am I laughing so much? Why am I so energetic? We look it up on the DSM-5 because we're psych students. We're supposed to have a DSM copy. And it turns out when she was reading the symptoms of mania, I was like, oh my god, that's me. Like, that's happening to me right now. I went home shortly after that, but I broke down in my car crying because I thought that I had to kill myself. Like, I was so sure, like how I was so sure that I was sexually assaulted, I was so sure that I had to kill myself. So I called my friends, I begged for help, and just people were trying to help me, and one of my friends told me to pack like a bag so I can like go with my boyfriend because my roommate was out of town. Nobody could be there for me because all my friends either had work, were out of town. They could not help me. Nobody was there for me except for my boyfriend. So I went with my boyfriend. I also started watching my YouTube videos from the very beginning, and a lot of them are privated, so you can't go back to watch them. So that was on a Saturday. The next day, January 19th, is a Sunday. In the middle of the night, because that's my favorite time when I'm manic, I started adding people from high school into a group chat because I was believing a lot of things, and one of those things was the end of the world. And I thought that we were gonna the end of the world was coming in 2026. Here we are. So at this point, I was still hypomanic, so the things that I was doing still seemed normal, and nobody could really tell that I was going through a mental health episode, or nobody said anything. Nobody was like, can you go to the hospital, except for my boyfriend. And so the difference between a hypomanic and a manic episode is that a hypomanic episode, at least for me, you do things that seem normal, but like maybe to a higher intensity. Whereas in a manic episode, you have delusions and you're not making any sense. So nobody could tell that I was hypomanic. Somewhere around this time, I also thought that I could predict the future, and I thought that I could send messages through my dreams. So I sent messages to my friends and my professors and the psychology department because I thought of that it was my duty to save the world, and I thought that I had to get all the psychology students in the graduate program and undergraduate program and the professors to teach other students on campus, like in the school, about the end of the world. This day was also the day that I had the realization that it was the second coming of Christ in the middle of the night. And by that point, my boyfriend was taking care of me, and he was sleeping, and I woke him up at like 2, 3 in the morning. And I was like, I have something really important to tell you. And he's like, can you wait until the morning? And I was like, sure. And I have evidence of me being, again, not well. So January 20th, the next day, it was Martin Luther King Day, so everything was closed. I went to the school clinic because my boyfriend said that I needed to go to the hospital, and I did not want to go to the hospital, so instead I went to the school clinic. I remember being there and telling them that I was probably sexually assaulted by a family member, and they gave me an incest pamphlet, and I called my mom because I thought that I could predict the future minute by minute. And so I told my mom not to go home because I thought that my dad had killed himself from the guilt of my sexual assault. And she was freaking out. And that day, she got on a rental car and drove from South Texas to East Texas for 9 hours. I was seeing angel numbers left and right, and I was fully manic at this point, and literally nobody said anything. The next day, January 21st, I went to the counseling center and in my school first thing in the morning. I had already emailed every psychology professor in the department telling them to meet me at a certain spot and bring their Bible because I thought that I was smarter than them and that they were going to make me a psychology professor even though I was only 1 month into my graduate program. Not 1 month, a semester into my graduate program. Instead, I was met with my lab PI and a professor that is an expert on psychotic disorders. And and I was like, I know why you're here. I remember telling him that I was going through a religious psychotic break and that the world was gonna end. And he's like, yep. And he left me there. I met with my therapist and I tell him my delusions and he calls some people, and in the meantime, I am let loose all over the main building on campus. They just let me go. Again, I don't know why these people keep letting me go. And I think they're talking about me and about how smart I am, and they're gonna ship me off to a lab to study me. That's not what was happening. I remember going to the campus store and thinking that everything there was for free for me because I'm the smartest person in the world. And I'm gonna have all the money in the world. And then I went to there's like a professional closet sort of thing on campus where they have a bunch of professional clothes for interviews and stuff like that. And I went there shopping because it's free, so I just took a bunch of stuff, even things that didn't fit me because I thought that I was pregnant at the time with false pregnancy tests, because I thought it was I was like the Virgin Mary and I was gonna give birth to humanity's savior. I also believe that the government is after me because I had no cell service or Wi-Fi on my phone. So I write down the numbers of the people that I care about, my friends, and then I tossed my phone in the trash. And then I thought that my therapist could still find the phone, so I took that trash can out to a different trash can while they were collecting the trash. And to this day, I don't have that phone. And that phone had a footage of me going through my hypomanic episode, which I wish I could show you guys, but alas, I threw it away. A friend then takes me to the hospital and I spend 2 weeks there. Now we're going to hospital time. I was admitted on the 21st, but don't go to the acute behavioral unit, the psych ward, until the 23rd, and I got out on the 6th. I don't remember the first few days of me being at the psych ward, but I remember the first time that I got there. I thought that they were going to listen to me and put me into a PhD program in clinical psychology right away because they realized that I just became completely smarter than anybody else on the planet overnight. I thought that I had achieved peak human evolution because I stopped aging, and I thought that I could recycle my pee by releasing the muscles to pee and then sucking it back up as water, so I didn't have to pee ever again. I still had not slept in days, and I thought that the doctors were trying to get me to sleep so they could study me, because I was in like in a 4x5 room with a hospital bed, a sink, and a computer, and on that computer I was a camera. So obviously, I thought that they were recording me and watching me through the camera. Duh. So I was in that room with nothing but like water and maybe some snacks and somebody outside, like an orderly. And so I had a lot of time for my delusions to develop. And like over time, my delusions changed. So at first I thought I was sexually assaulted, and then I thought it was the end of the world, and then I thought that I was pregnant with second coming of Christ. And I never realized that my delusions changed constantly. They just did, right? The computer was off, but somewhere in the middle of the night, I took a crack at it and I logged in with my school credentials, and I decided to DM director Todd Phillips of Joker 1 and Joker 2. And I thought he and Joaquin Phoenix knew about me because obviously I thought my condition of being the smartest person in the world became popular and grew like wildfire overnight, and they were preparing me to become the most famous person in the world by putting me in that room. At that point, I looked up Joker 2, and there was a bunch of news stories about them winning some sort of like prank / joke awards. I don't know what they're called. And I thought, oh my god, they're gonna make a third Joker movie and I'm gonna be in it, and I'm gonna be Joker's daughter. Mind you, I have zero acting experience. I thought that my professors and my friends were watching me through the camera and the computer like I was on the Truman Show, and I would talk to them as if they were listening to me, like as if they were awake at 3 a.m, just watching me walk back and forth. I lost track of time, but at some point my mom came in around, I guess, 3 a.m, and she tried to get me to go to sleep. While I was laying on a hospital bed, I thought that I was aging rapidly and that I had to die in order to be reborn. And I thought that they took me out of the room, but apparently my mom says that I escaped. And when I left my room, there was like 20 to 30 doctors just standing outside, like watching me. So obviously I'm going to think that they're like experimenting on me and watching my every move. But apparently it's because they needed to stop me from leaving the building. So they take me to a different room with a bunch of non-suicidal tables and chairs and a bunch of bedrooms. And this is the point where I go absolutely bonkers and I strip naked and I run around trying to find the key because I think it's an escape room and I think it's a test to see how smart I am. And so I'm looking for a key that doesn't exist while naked. They finally grab me They put me in a chair, inject me with some sort of tranquilizer, put a blanket over me, and I fall asleep. And so that's the first time that I actually fall asleep after not sleeping for like nearly a week. When I wake up, I hear that there was somebody in the room next to me, and so obviously I think that it is my dead ex-boyfriend. And when I see him, he looks completely different. He looks kind of similar, eerily similar, but he looks different. And I'm like, duh, that's what happens when you fake your death for like a year and come back. There's also a TV in the room playing songs, and it's called Stingray TV. It's called Stingray, and I think that the songs are messages to me from my friends, and they're telling me that they know that I'm in there. They had no idea. So on the 23rd, they take me to the psych ward, and at some point they start giving me medicine, lithium and olanzapine, I'm pretty sure. And I meet with a psychiatrist and some med students nearly every day. So it makes me think I'm still being studied. I'm given a folder with my schedule during my stay and a notebook, along with a copy of the New Testament. Now, as I mentioned before, I had delusions that I was the second coming of Christ, and I had religious psychosis, so giving a religious text to someone with religious psychosis does not make any sense. But I digress. I wish I had journaled my experience instead of writing down addresses and numbers of food that I was given. I would just write down the address and the phone number to call them, because I thought that if I called them, it was like messages they were sending me through the food and through the TV. So if I called the right number, they would come and get me, because I had figured out whatever it was. I wrote a lot about the book of Revelation because, as you remember, I was obsessed with the end of the world, and I was planning a Joker prequel and a sequel, and I have some evidence here. Todd Phillips, I'm still begging you. I was also thinking of some research ideas because I am a nerd, and I don't know if it would work. Some things are like delusional, but some other things I'm like, I had a point. I honestly had a great time in the psych ward. They gave us warm food, they gave us hot food, snacks like twice a day. They gave us time to do arts and crafts. It was all good and chill up until the very end, when this 40-something-year-old guy asked for my number. Babe, we are in a psych ward. You're trying to get a number from another patient in the psych ward. If only I had access to a computer in there, that would be my ideal situation. But they did charge me like $1,300. So it's kind of like going to college. My friends came to visit me once. I don't remember much of it. I don't remember what I said. And I was still pretty manic at that point. And my mom came to visit me every single day. So now the aftermath. I got out after 2 weeks. But I think I should have stayed longer because I was still hypomanic. But I know that they need the beds. So as long as I wasn't manic, I was good to go. And they let me out into the world with my hypomanic thoughts. But I was on medicine, so they would go away pretty soon. I thought I was going to write a research book about the beginning of the world and psychology and science, and I thought I was going to explain everything from the beginning of the world and the history and psychology, and I have an unfinished document on my computer titled research book. That's never gonna happen. Plenty of other more experienced, knowledgeable people can write that book, not me. Yeah, the day that I got out of the psych ward, my roommate shames me for being manic, because when I was manic, when I was hypomanic, I told people that she was having a manic episode because the police came to my door to check on me, the campus police. Which, by the way, never do that. That is not for mental health reasons. Why are you doing that? No. So February 20th, I realized that I lost my friend group that I made in the first semester of grad school. And I still can't get over this, because how are you a psychology student and not be empathetic and compassionate towards someone going through a mental health crisis? Riddle me that. I was still amped up after I got out of hospital, but that slowly went away because I was taking my medication, and I was on 450 milligrams of lithium. They had me sedated. They did not want another manic episode. Now, I'm off lithium because it was causing me severe acne. And now I'm on Latuda with 15 milligrams, I think. I wouldn't say that I got depressed, but I certainly lost my motivation that I had, and it never came back. It still has not come back. I still struggle with motivation. I did school online up until the summer when I switched to in-person because my therapist recommended it, and I hated every second of it. The people that I used to call my friends ignored me, and they do not seem to care about me at all. So overall, I would recommend having a manic episode. No, that's the wrong take. I thought it was fun. My boyfriend says that it was a disaster and it is very dangerous to have a manic episode. I feel like most people would say the same, but I had a lot of fun. When you think that you are the most creative, smartest person in the world for like a good few days, it feels like you're on cloud 9. So yes, it was fun. I know that's not the case for everybody. I am a psychology student and I still suffered a mental health episode. And when I was in the hospital and I told the other patients that I was a psychology student, they're like, why are you here? Why don't you just like read your notes or something? I love making YouTube videos and I hope to return to YouTube sometime this year. But who knows? I might have another manic episode. I'll see you whenever I see you.